and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I'm Eric Miskell with EMS Now, and it is my pleasure today to speak once again with Herr Dieter Weiss of in4ma and Data4PCB, the preeminent market researchers for the EMS and PCB industries, which we all appreciate. And special congratulations today to Dieter. It is the 25th anniversary of Weiss Engineering,
thank you.
The basic business that is. And I think 25 is the silver anniversary, right? So
yeah.
I will have
I'm not going to make it to gold.
You're not? Ah, come on. I'll get a silver plate engraved and sent to you soon. And Dieter is joining us from southern Germany in the beautiful Alps, which is why he appears so red there, because it's evening time. So you're looking good though, Dieter. You look healthy, you look good. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Yeah, I underwent some good medical treatment for the last 2 weeks, which helped my health a lot. I got rid of a lot of my problems, and let's hope it stays that way.
Well, I hope so too, my friend, because I enjoy the association. I love the work you do. It's so important for our industry, and I know a lot of people rely on not just the data, but also your insights and your consultation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the flowers.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now that the Mutual Admiration Society part of the interview is over, we can move forward. Listen, you recently released your annual European EMS Industry Report that's based on the annual survey that you do. Tell me about that. What were the highlights from the report that you saw this year?
Well, number one, we hit a new record. We have been hitting new records every year the last 4 years. We have been able to attract more people from outside the German-speaking countries, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And we had a total of 427 EMS results in our annual survey this year, which equal about 42% of the annual production value of the European EMS industry. And therefore, this data can be used as an absolute benchmark to the EMS industry. And I think that especially this year is very, very important, because the market is very, very nervous at the moment. Yeah? And just to name one or the two important highlights is, number one is, on average, the companies had 14% minus in revenues in 2024. And if you separate East and West, it was 13.0 in Western Europe and 15.3% in Central Eastern Europe. In addition to that, the distribution shows, as usual, not all companies perform the same. Still, 27% of the companies were able to increase their revenues in 2024, whereas 66% were not able to increase revenues, and 28 out of the 427 companies, which equals about 6.6%, left the market. Yeah, and then it was in the majority small companies, very small companies below 5 million, which didn't make it anymore. Either filed for insolvency, decided to shut down, sold the factory to their biggest customer, the OEM, who probably did their business 85%. Yeah, so that to me is someone who is leaving the EMS market and is becoming part of an OEM. Yeah, but we had two big ones as well. One, for example, was Plexus Engineering Services, with, I think, nearly 200 engineers, and they shut down this place in Germany mid of last year, because it didn't make sense to them anymore.
Wow.
On the other hand, we saw one factory opening new, and that was Jabil in Croatia.
Hmm. Okay. So listen, and it's interesting, you're talking about the different geographies. So looking at your data, if I read it correctly, it shows that geographically, business was generally down everywhere except for the UK was up a little bit. So this isn't the downturn geographically wasn't driven by any one area over the other. It was just overall the general industry
Yeah.
in.
See, you have to realize one thing, as you mentioned, UK. UK is always in their numbers somehow lagging behind, or you could say they are in advance, because uh, about 40 to 50% of the UK companies don't have the calendar year as their fiscal year. They have a fiscal year deviating. Now, it makes no sense to me, and it's not possible to recalculate a fiscal year result to a calendar year result. Yeah? That might be possible with the global companies, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But with the UK companies, it's not possible. So a lot of the results in the UK do not reflect the 2024 calendar year, but instead they reflect still 3 quarters of 2023 and just the first quarter of 2024. And that is the reason why in this case their numbers are better than in the rest of Europe.
Okay.
On the other hand, we see that we have some very stable numbers: Austria -14, Switzerland -13.3. France was doing better, but I'm still not certain whether we have enough database there. 4.6% minus. Scandinavia -9%. Yeah, that 9%, that is a good one. Baltics -10, that's a good one as well. Czech Republic, Hungary -10. And then comes Poland with -23. And here you have to realize that we do have a huge factory of Flex in Poland. And Flex in 2023, which is their fiscal year 24, they had revenues of 1.2 billion, but they already finalized their fiscal year 25, which ended on the first, 24,
Yeah.
which ended on the 31st of March 2024. And they had a reduction to 759 million, which is a reduction of 37.8%. And that really goes down into the Polish numbers, as Flex is, if I'm correct, Flex is in Poland the biggest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
But listen, but you made a point there about the global ones, because you make the point that this downturn that you're discussing, the 14% Europe across the board, was not a German or a European problem, but really a global one that the whole industry suffered under.
Oh, yes, yes. And then not talking about the chip crisis, I'm not talking about the toilet paper crisis anymore. But the impact we were able to see that on a global base. If I just take those companies, those global companies who are having facilities in Europe, that is Jabil, that is Flex, it is Celestica, it is Sanmina, it is Flexus, it is Benchmark, and it is Kimball.
Yeah.
And out of those, 2 companies have the fiscal year as a calendar year. All others have a fiscal year variating, but as they report their quarterly results, what I have been doing, I have recalculated their quarter results to fit a calendar year.
Yeah.
And that is how I was able to say that, and that is their total revenues, not just the European ones. The total revenues of these companies, seven companies, was $85.88 billion US dollars in 2023. And in 2024, it was 78.6 billion, which is a minus of 7.3 billion or 8.5%.
Okay.
And similar to Europe, it was not all of them going down in 23. Jabil was the toughest with minus 17.8%.
Okay.
Then comes Kimball with minus 13.8%, and then Sanmina with 8.9. But we have in that group, similar to Europe, yeah, we have Celestica with plus 21.2%. So totally different to the market, Celestica performed much, much better.
Interesting.
And if you ask me now why, I tell you I don't know.
Not yet, right?
Not yet. I'm
Not
gonna
yet.
find out, but it takes a while.
Yeah. Let me ask too. So we've talked about the regions, but talk about the market sectors served. Were there some that were bright spots? Were the typical three C's? Kind of the laggards in the group. How did that turn out?
More or less all big market segments went down, but in specific, the automotive industry in Europe is going down, and that is probably due to the Chinese competition we are facing over here. Yeah? Okay. On the other hand, we have three market segments which increased. Number one is consumer electronics, and that is nothing really serious. The second one is agriculture. And the influence here might be in the statistics, I just started to asking separate questions about agriculture, electronics, I think 3 years ago. So in the first year, nobody answered this question. They all had a zero in there. Yeah. Maybe because they didn't know. Yeah. I don't think that the agriculture electronics is drastically increasing. I still believe it is increasing because with labor getting more expensive, you need automatic harvesting systems, automatic planting systems, all of that. And if you look at the big agricultural companies, whether it's John Deere or you name it, they are all working in this field, doing very, very interesting inventations, and that causes demand for electronics because you need a lot of sensors and you need to control all of that. Yeah. But the third biggest is something which already last year was visible, as we all knew, at least I knew, that Donald Trump would be voted and he would hammer the table for the European Union to increase their investment in defense. Yeah, because they all had not spent too much money relying on the protection from the United States. And now we think we had a wake-up call, to say so, especially at the Munich Security Conference this year, where we all realized it can't continue that way anymore. And if we want to avoid someday to be attacked by whomever, we need to have our own solid defense system. And at the moment, they are talking about investments of 900 billion in defense electronics in Europe. And Brussels is working on those. They think they have a problem. They think they have a problem that electronic capacity is insufficient to do all those electronics, because We have been constantly fighting with Chinese competition, Chinese electronics being much cheaper, flooding our market, and that we cannot accept that for defense electronics.
Yeah.
And you in the United States, you have a law that forbids such products to be purchased outside allied countries. Yeah?
Right.
But in Europe, we don't have anything. Yeah? And I think it's the highest time that we get something.
No.
Yeah?
Let me just a little bit from what you're talking there. Very interesting. I think in the consumer, just to talk about those three sectors quickly, the consumer, you say not much, but the part I see there growing is really that has grown has been the professional audio has been very big in that particular sector. That's consumer, but especially during the COVID and after, right? Those type of things have really grown. We're all doing much more from our home, and work at home things have driven that. The agriculture I found interesting. I remember when you and I started talking about that on a tour several years back. And that was a sector that was always just shoved into the industrial sector, right? So I think it's taken a while for people to really separate that out somewhat. And maybe what you're seeing is that people are more disciplined about that now, right?
Exactly. See, in the past, looking 5, 7 years ago, looking back, I was working for another association, and I was doing the statistics there as well. And there the attitude was, everything you don't know where it has to go to, put it in industrial electronics. So industrial electronics was the garbage bin. Yeah. The garbage bin of everything you didn't know. Yeah. And I have a different approach. If you don't know where it goes to, put it in other. Yeah. But let's keep industrial electronic clean. And I separated several other new market segments about 3 or 4 years ago to be more precise, because we need to be more precise. I said to you in the beginning, the market is very nervous.
Yeah.
And in the annual survey, what we have been doing, we ask for the order backlog. And then we recalculate the order backlog into working days. And we assume that a year is 250 working days. In the past, we always said between 150 to 240 days in order backlog is a normal backlog. Yeah? And during this stupid crisis 2.5 years ago, people were talking about 350, 400 days in order backlog. Now we see some countries even being below 150, and that makes them nervous. Yeah? And I do understand this, and they need to make sure that their customers don't run the warehouses down to the absolute minimum.
Yeah. No, and that's a fair point. Yeah. I mean, but that also speaks to the OEM side where they're getting, you know, their indication from. The markets are still nervous. There's still uncertainty in the markets. It's not just the EMS markets. It's also, you know, the upstream.
Yeah. See, if I refer to a Prismark study about a year ago, it said the global annual growth rate for electronics is 3.57%. Yeah, so that growth rate might be influenced by special things. Apple brings out a new mobile phone, yeah, or there are other very important products, electronic products, which one has to expect a high demand in the market. Then it might go up, but it will never jump up. And in specific, it will never jump up to 2-digit percentage as it did specifically over here in Europe in 21, 22, and in part as well in 23. It means this was all artificial demands that ended up in the warehouses because the OEMs ordered it as they were afraid of not getting sufficient product to supply their end users.
Yeah. Dieter, that's interesting because as I hear you speaking, I think about the automotive sector, which I know is a laggard. But if you think about the EMS industry several years ago, many people, myself included, saw that with the adoption of EV and all the drive and the push and the investment, everybody thought that's the next great product wave that's going to grow the EMS industry. A lot of people prepared for that. And then what have we seen over the last few years? There's a lot of pulling back on that, right? And
Yeah.
maybe full EV is not what people want and what the industry wants. So we're going to more hybrid type models, and ICE vehicles are still very relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in regards to the technologies, we, in my opinion, will see a change in Europe. The
How
European
so?
Union at the moment is pushing for a much higher degree of technology, specifically in regards to the PCBs with 1 and 2 mil lines and spaces, micro wires, blind wires, buried wires, all of these things. But at the same time, the footprint of the components is getting smaller. Yeah? And in addition, we will see changes in first level packaging. And I even think it is not impossible to say that we might see a renaissance of ceramic hybrid circuits in thick film technology for legacy chips as a first level packaging substrate.
Okay. No, that's interesting. We'll have to see what comes here. Listen, you made a comment in there that I want to follow up on. The mood, you say it's nervous. The mood, what is the mood in the European EM industry here of Q1 2025?
Well,
Looking forward to the year, are they nervous? Are they
uh,
optimistic? How would you characterize it?
yeah, as you know, we have a big market share of about 18 to 20% in the automotive industry in Europe, and that is the biggest concern at the moment. Yeah, you might have heard that just Volkswagen and Porsche announced much worse results, cutting dividends and all of that. And in my opinion, it's just the beginning. Yeah. And I want to make clear, I'm definitely not talking in favor of electrical vehicles. I myself will not buy an electrical vehicle until I am forced by law. Yeah, I love my burner. Yeah, and I think what is being talked about the crisis of the industry, of the automotive industry, being that the automotive industry has been sleeping in regards to electrical vehicles. That is wrong. Yeah, the European automotive industry made the wrong electrical vehicles. They looked at the big ones that they can sell for 100,000 euros. Yeah, that is those green people, and even so, we are now down to about 11.5% over here in Germany. Luckily, they don't buy an electrical vehicle for 100,000 euros. They want something cheap. Yeah. And now come the Chinese over here with their imports, and they offer the cheap product. And that is the fault. And at the same time, there is huge discussion that all the electrical technology in the Tesla actually was supplied by Daimler-Benz. Daimler-Benz gave Tesla a lot of the know-how, engineering know-how on that, rather than using it themselves. So, and then I can only say, how stupid is the German and I focus it on the German automotive industry. How stupid is the German automotive industry that they work like that? Yeah? They don't have the right marketing people.
Evidently.
They
Hey,
should listen to the market.
yeah, listen, you made an interesting, you've said in your comments so far, you've mentioned kind of the companies coming from the Far East. There seems to be more of that coming into the Far East from Europe. I know of some Indian companies that have been looking and may have already moved in there. How do you assess this development and its impact on the EMS industry there?
Well, shortly after the Corona crisis, when the supply chains, especially to the Far East, collapsed, everybody was talking about changes necessary in regards to the supply chain, and everybody was using the word reshoring. Yeah, let's reshore. Yeah, and yes, there has been a lot of products coming back, but we have to differentiate. What is the kind of product that is being manufactured in the Far East? Low mix, high volume.
Mhm.
And what came back was low mix, high volume. Where does low mix, high volume go to? It goes to the big EMS in Europe. It doesn't go to the small one. If you talk with the EMS companies with less than 20 million in revenue, they haven't probably seen anything on the
Reshoring.
reshoring. But now what we see as well is that the Chinese market is getting nervous because the growth rates they had planned are not coming.
Right.
And they are now down on growth rates of 5%, which we in Europe would consider lucky. Yeah, but to them it's not sufficient. They have higher expectations. And what do? They follow the orders, which means they are now coming to Europe. Some of them already having done business via German or European sales agents, yeah, and now want to expand this to get more volume. And they are even considering buying a company or forming a company. Yeah, there's one big Taiwanese company who formed a factory in Poland now to follow the orders for the automotive industry. Yeah, then you know our good friend Bruno Racot from All Circuits in France. He sold his factory to a Chinese EMS, and I can tell you there are several more big, really big EMS from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and India, who are at the moment interested in buying a company in Europe to have a bigger share to do more solid business.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that'll be an interesting trend to follow here in the next year or so, because with the market being down, there's undoubtedly opportunity and things could be a little more negotiable for those doing on the buy side. So,
Yes.
yeah. Hey, listen, I want to be respectful of our time here. So, but before, I have to ask before we go, inventory. We've been talking about inventory for the last many years. How would you assess the current inventory situation?
Yeah, let me
in the
just get
European
my
industry?
numbers to make sure
Yeah,
I'm
we
right
don't
on
want you
it.
giving up
In
nonsense.
general, in the different countries, all countries had, in absolute terms, reduced inventory. But you know as well, but still not everybody on the what we call the normal level of 15% of annual revenues in raw material goods. Yeah, there is Austria is close, the Baltics are close, but we still have some countries like Switzerland is very high, Benelux is high as well. But again, they all reduced. Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm expecting that we're gonna be end of this year. We're gonna be at a normal level. The funniest thing was in Germany, because I hadn't mentioned that so far. Even so, in Western Europe, the downturn in revenues for 2024 was on average minus 13%. In Germany, we had the red lantern due to our homemade economy crisis, which brought the German electronics industry down by 17.6%.
Wow.
So this caused the inventories going down, but the revenues going down further. So the inventory as a percentage of revenues increased.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, and that can happen, but still, it's not nothing to worry, and therefore. I think we are all on a good track over here. And I'm going to update the chart which you have published lately on the global EMS companies to show that the global companies have the same.
Very good. Very good. Hey, listen, before we go, I wanted to touch on one last issue with you, if I may. And that is this rumor that I'm hearing in the industry that EMSNOW and in4ma may be going on tour again in 2025. What do you
I
hear?
heard that rumor as well.
Did you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Well,
And
since you're my source for that rumor,
yeah,
so tell me what you're hearing.
Yeah, and someone told me, well, if you want to do that tour, you should now get ready and start planning it.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, yeah. So so what that is, it's a tease to say that Dita and I are in the planning stages of another on tour together, as we've done now for this will be our sixth tour, I believe, and we're looking at June of this year and focusing more on Central Europe, right? So
Yes.
give some explanation or commentary there.
Yeah, there is still many companies we haven't seen, Eric.
I know.
And I have it in my thoughts that we're gonna visit some companies in Poland, maybe one company in Slovak Republic, maybe one or two companies in Czech Republic, a couple of companies in Hungary, and maybe on the way back we hit one or two companies in Germany as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
So I cannot say how many companies we're gonna be able to make in total. You know, always the problem is the distance between the companies we have to drive, and once in a while that doesn't allow us to make two companies a day.
Hold on, we're driving? I thought we're using your private plane this time. No?
Oh, forget about that. Yeah.
But also, and then we will end up actually in Bonn, Germany for a June.
Former capital.
Yeah, the former federal capital. That's right. And that'll be on June 25th and 26th when you're having your third annual EMS and PCB forum.
Yes, yes.
And it's only in German, so there'll be some subtitles provided, right, for us.
Yeah, well, at the moment, number one, we have already made save the date call. We are still working on the program. As usual, there will be a lot of market data, but in addition, we will focus on the geopolitical situation, and we hope to get some very good speakers in regards to the geopolitical situation. And see, we are unique with our EMS forum because we, number one, we do not accept any sales pitches. Right. Number two, we expect from our presenters a very professional presentation, and we pay for it. Yeah, so See, I still don't understand that people go to seminars where they pay 1,000 or more euros to go to a seminar and then being presented with sales pitches. Yeah. When I was an active entrepreneur, I didn't go to such seminars. I called the suppliers up and said, "You want to do a sales pitch? Come to my factory and do a sales pitch at my factory free of charge. I'm not going to pay for this." Yeah.
Yeah. But seminars are target-rich environments for salespeople. So
Yeah.
you got them all in one room, so you can
Yeah.
kind of you see there's blood in the water, as they say. So no, I think that'll be very interesting. Of course, it's alles auf Deutsch again, so it's all in German, which is so clearly this appeals to the DACH countries, the German, Austria, Switzerland primarily,
Yeah.
and
Well, we
anybody who
already
happens to be fluent in
Yeah, we
German.
already have the first 30 applications, even so we have not hammered out the program. Yeah?
Yeah.
So the people who come to us have been coming to us for many years.
Mhm.
You know, I used to do this seminar under a separate title in the past, going back to 2017. Yeah? And most of the people who come have been coming for the last 7 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think that speaks for the quality.
Yeah, and I would say I would just endorse that. I've been fortunate to have attended the last two that you've done uh, under this particular forum, and the quality has been top notch. The engagement, the networking, the discussions, it is just fantastic. So, and I would, listen, if you're going to do something on the geopolitical, if you're looking for someone to speak from the US perspective, I hear that our ex-president Biden is now represented by a marketing group, and you might be able to entice him to come over.
We are gonna get back to that, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I can as well announce as well that I have another colleague who will be giving a presentation. You know, I have been complaining the last 2 years that the work has been becoming too much for me. In specific, as last year I had to take over all the work for Data4PCB, as Michael Gush, who had been doing it before, accidentally died in May last year. Yeah, not accidentally, but suddenly,
Unfortunately.
and unfortunately.
Oh,
And that costs me a lot of additional work. So IPC has hired another person who is
yes.
actually coming from company Zollner, who has a lot of experience in the industry, and he has been working in the marketing department doing the statistics at Zollner. So I really have problems what to tell him because he knows it all already. Yeah, so that's a good thing because it takes a certain burden off my shoulders and allows me to focus more on the analytical things
Perfect.
rather than collecting the data, going into the country company registers and things like that. And this person's name is Christoph Zolka,
Mhm.
and Christoph will be at Apex as well in Anaheim. I'm quitting this year. I'm not coming to Apex, but Christoph Zolka will be coming to Apex. And he might even, that's not certain as of now, he might even give a presentation at Apex.
Oh, excellent. I didn't know he was coming. I will be there next week, so I will seek him out and
Yeah,
introduce myself.
I have another meeting with him on Friday, and I will make sure that he looks for you and talks with you.
Very good. I appreciate the connection. Well, listen, Dita, I know it's getting late. I appreciate this one a little longer than I had planned, but it was all very good, insightful information. As always, thank you for the service you provide to the industry, both the data and your insights. I know a lot of companies rely on it. I think it's excellent, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Eric.
Very good. Take care.